Layla.
Kitty. She's pretty.
Yeah,
Aw.
she's my shy one.
Doesn't
But-
seem shy.
Now she's on the internet for the world to see. Well, she doesn't know you guys are here. Is the
It is 7:01 and you are live.
Thank you.
Okay.
Connie, before we begin, will Greg be with us tonight? Greg
He is.
Mattice?
He is supposed to be on.
I'm here, everybody.
There he
Oh, hi,
is.
Greg. All set.
All set. Okay. Let's see. Call to order Parks and Recs Commission meeting on February 1st, 2021 via Zoom. Roll call. Beth Ashbaugh, present. Carolyn Marks,
Present?
Brett Heindel,
Here.
Libby Cudmore, not present. Lou Lansing,
Here.
Katie Lepari-Shu.
here.
Okay. I think that's everybody right now. And and
As well as Greg Mattice.
as well as Greg. Greg, hold on. Oh, it's not letting me. Okay. Oh, Greg, present. Okay. Okay. We didn't review or approve meetings from December. So we need to approve the minutes for December 2nd, 2020. Anybody have anything that needs to change or? Any additions or anything to, do we have to do a motion for that, right? To approve the minutes for December?
It is suggested.
I think probably.
Yes.
Anyone move to approve the minutes for December?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 2020 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting.
Okay. Second,
I could second, although I wasn't there.
you weren't there either. Did you read them?
Yes, they were
Oh, okay.
riveting, moving.
Then okay, and second, Greg. Or,
Good job, Brett.
Brett. Okay, and then the minutes for January 1st, 2021. I guess,
I'll make a motion that we
Okay.
approve the minutes from the January 6, 2021 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting.
okay, and I guess, am I allowed to second things? Do we know?
Yes, you are.
Okay, then I'll second that. Okay. Right, and then Parks Administrator report. Lou?
Did everybody receive that report?
I did. I'm
Yes.
having a hard time pulling it up immediately, so I'm
I'm sorry.
Yeah. no, I got it, but I can't, I'm like,
Okay, well, I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna start with, instead of going old business, since that's more toward the end, I'm just gonna go with our petitioners. We have Mark Dano, he's with the Central New York Soccer Group. And Mark has, it's a new event for the park. So you're all gonna have to vote on it tonight. Basically, he wants to have a co-ed adult soccer league. He wants to use 2 fields. He's requested fields at Swart Wilcox, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But he needs 2 fields from June 21st to August 11th. Obviously, all contingent upon our facilities being open in light of COVID. 5:30 to 8 p.m. He's asked specifically for Monday and Wednesday evenings. He may ask to expand to Tuesday, Thursdays if he has the interest. This league is similar to, I don't know if any of you recall, I'm sure Carolyn does, the old soccer league that used to run at Swart Wilcox on the soccer field there. We had 2 fields set up. So it's basically the same thing other than it's a co-ed league. There we had women playing on one night and men playing on another. This is a co-ed league. Mark has rented facilities from the city in the past. He took over for Oneonta Christian School at Swart Wilcox for their youth program, and he did a nice job with it. So I think he's a great candidate to run a program. I'm not sure how co-ed soccer will go over, but who knows. My recommendation right now, and it could change, my recommendation right now is to put them on 2, they need smaller than regulation fields. So put them on 2 fields in Catella Park. And there's a couple reasons why I want to do that. Number one, Swart Wilcox space is a little more crunched now that we have given another field to the Oneonta Little League. They're building a second field next to Rich Murphy Field. So that's part of it. A little bit of construction will be going on there this year. I don't think they're going to have cranes and bulldozers and all that, but I think the room's going to be a little crunched. I also think it's always a good thing if we have the room to have adult leagues away from youth leagues that could be running sort of in conjunction with one another. So I vote, and I think Catella Park is a far underutilized park facility. Those fields kind of sit there idle, especially since we're not playing softball in field number 9 anymore. My only hesitation with it is I have a call in to the parks guys. I want to make sure that that's going to be a doable area for them. I don't know when's the last time you were through the park, but there's a mound, a mountain, like Rockies mountain snow thing there. So I don't know how long it may take till July till it thaws out. And I don't know if there's any kind of damage that's going to be done to that area, but so I'm waiting for them to tell me what would be the easiest facility for them to prep for that. So just so you know that if you vote tonight, you're voting to allow the league on whatever fields we deem we can get for their use. So again, I support them having this league. It's up to you all what you want to do.
So this is a co-ed group for adults or children?
For adults.
Adults.
It's for adults. It's an adult league.
Adult.
8 years of age and older then, Lou?
18 and older.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And I don't have any opposition. Any, so we take a vote?
Somebody has to make a motion.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
They will provide their certificate of insurance
Yes, that's always
through
a,
the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I won't give them a park permit until they do that. And he
Okay.
provided one when he did the Oneonta Christian School, so I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
Okay. And
No.
will they provide their own officials also, Lou? Are they going to self-officiate or we?
I don't know the answer to that, Carolyn. All we do is rent the field, so it's
Okay.
whatever they do. I have advised him, and it's the same at Swart Wilcox. I have advised him if he's in Catella Park, that there is no bathroom facility there, but they
Right.
could, get in their cars and go right over to Demoski. Certainly more capability for bathroom facilities there than at Swart Wilcox, because there's none there. Another problem with Swart Wilcox, which Carolyn, I'm sure you can remember, we used to have there, people parked all over the place. And
Yes.
they've recently redone all the area around the school there. And I'm sure they don't want cars parked everywhere. And I know if we have an adult league there, cars will be parked everywhere. So even if we ask them not to. So I think Catella is a better spot for them.
Yeah.
In the past, though, I have noticed, and I'm not quite sure what the reasons were, but there was a porta-john in field in that
Yeah.
area of field number 9.
In
Is
the-
that,
In the fall,
Yeah.
the city has donated a porta john for the youth
Okay.
soccer programs. So it goes in September and it comes out in November. So it would
Okay.
not be there for them.
all right,
I'd be happy to get a portable john if they want one, but they'll pay for it.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do it for them, but he hasn't asked for that. I will, if you all decide to let it, I will offer it to him. And there is a cost for the city to do
Yes.
that for him.
I love the idea that they're rejuvenating this adult soccer league. I think we really noticed the absence of it the last couple of years. So I think this is terrific. Yeah, my only concern, but you sort of addressed it, Lou, was just that one field that is sort of all the way in the back by that little building. I don't know if it's a pump house or what it is.
Yeah,
I know in the fall, my son used to play there a lot, and it was always just swamp by, mid-October. Just so much
Yeah.
use just got all torn up.
yeah,
But I know you guys are going to do your best to make sure that
Yeah.
it's the playable surfaces and all that. So
and in years past, we always had the youth soccer, the name leaves me right at the moment because I'm old, but we had that big soccer tournament for kids out
Yeah.
there in the summertime, and it always went great in the summer.
Yeah.
I think by fall, there is some moisture in there.
Yeah. But if we're talking about summer anyway, this is I think it's great. I'm happy to hear it.
Okay. Anyone want to make the motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any yays, right? I go, I say yes. So I make a motion to vote. We've motioned second, then we do the vote, right? Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Then I do go through roll call, right, for that?
Mhm.
Okay. Beth
Sure.
Ashbaum. Beth, yes. Carolyn Marks.
Yes.
Brett Heindel.
Yes.
Lou, are you allowed to vote on this too, or no?
No, I don't
Okay.
vote.
Okay. And so all present vote yes.
Okay.
Motion passed.
And of course, it's all contingent upon them taking care of, like Carolyn said, taking care of all the necessary paperwork. They've applied, but they will now have to submit their insurance to me and before I issue them any kind of park permit. So, and obviously, everything is contingent upon our facilities opening up once we get past COVID, when we get past COVID. So it may not happen by summer. I don't know, but
Okay.
I will hopefully by next month be able to tell you where exactly we're going to put them as soon as I get with the guys and make sure. The other part of petitioners, you don't need to vote on this. I just wanted you to know that the bike group, the Nika bike race, which is a fabulous race that happened 2 years ago, has applied to return again in the spring. That also is, that's also contingent upon the COVID being passed and OHS opening up their property, because most of this race originates and begins and ends at OHS. So I just wanted you to have the dates, potential dates there. I don't know if we're going to be able to have this in the spring. Anyway, and we have blocked the large pavilion in Wilbur Park for them because the first year we did this, we did rent that facility to another group, and there was a lot of problems because all the bikers were coming there to use the facilities because it's the only facility there, and it was a little bit of a problem. So we're just blocking it for the bike group for this year. I just wanted you to have the date. That's all.
Okay. Any other petitions?
I'm sorry?
Or is that if I'm, anything else, Lou? I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to hold the dog park update until old business because I think that's where you had it.
That's where I have it, yeah.
So that's all I have for right now.
Okay. And then any petitioners?
That was the only, Mark was the only petitioner.
Okay. And then any correspondence?
I did have a correspondence from Bill Shue, but I think we can tie that in with the dog park.
Dog
if
park.
that's okay. And
Okay.
I did want to let the commission know, I did have one lady that came up to me Sunday afternoon because I was in the office when I left the building. She came up to me and wanted to thank the city of Oneonta, specifically the parks guys, for doing such a fabulous job keeping the area around the large pavilion plowed so that she could walk her dog this winter, especially in light of COVID. So it's always good to get some thank yous and some good news, which I will extend to Dave Burnett and his staff, because they have done a good job with that. That's all I had.
Okay. And old business? Dog park?
You want to do the dog park? Greg, do you
Or-
want to go on first and talk about areas? Because I know you wanted to talk to them and maybe share your screen.
Yeah, sure. I can share my screen just a sec.
Okay.
Okay, everyone see that?
Yes.
So this is a Newell Park master plan that was updated with help from LA Group, architecture firm the city hired in 2013. You can see it encompasses the whole of Newell Park. And over here, you've got the master plan components. And if anyone hasn't seen this, I can email this after the meeting to everyone. Just let me know. So this area here is where they had identified as a good spot for the dog park. And I agree with that. I think this is a good spot. It's underutilized now. If you can picture this, you know, where the skate park is, right now there's just kind of some gravel piles. It's sort of a clear area that Deep W used to use for some temporary stockpiles. We've moved all that out and kind of flattened it out now. There's a bunch of brush back here, and there's some really underutilized area. There's this path that goes through here now. It's unpaved. It's just a walking path. And, you know, there's kind of an homeless encampment back there that's, you know, been there for a while. That it's not really the most attractive part of the park. So that's why I think it's a good space for this. Also, it's enough space, as you can see here, and Lou will talk a little bit more about the different small dog versus big dog areas, but there is room to make, you know, put in a chain link fence that would incorporate some wooded area. So there's some shade for the dogs and the people. We just clear out the underbrush and leave the bigger trees, and then some open space as well. And you'd have separate areas for small and big dogs. An entrance would look something like this, where you'd have a, you know, dedicated entrance and exit to each area that's chain link fenced in. Here would be, you know, potentially a small little pavilion, or at least initially at least some sort of a shade kind of area.
Shade.
Yeah, for people to sit and other dogs running around. Actually, you know, one of the things I think Lou had probably talk about is we don't want to encourage people to eat and picnic in here, so it probably wouldn't be a picnic table, but maybe like a shade structure of some sort. This is also a good location because while this path is not here now, it's, you know, part of the master plan, and some of these things I've modified a little bit since 2013. We actually had a subcommittee of the Parks and Rec Commission last 2 years ago, 2019. We went through and sort of updated. And that's something that we kind of do on a running basis as to what our priorities are. But given that this is in close proximity to the large pavilion, which has bathrooms now, in the future, the master plan originally had this is a bathroom, like a nice bathroom complex. We could fund hopefully in the future and build. Obviously not there now. We had shown this over here, but wherever that ends up, it's going to be somewhere near this area. So it kind of makes sense that you would have that near the dog park, with all this other stuff going on as well. At one point, we had considered over here putting like a long. It would be probably about out to here, and it would be almost the length of this pathway down to about here. It would be a long and narrow dog park. And while that was an okay option, I think there is some trees over here that create some natural shade. It just seems like a better option over here where you can have it a little bit more even dimensions. You don't have this long, narrow thing where your dog can run away 100 yards from you. It's still a big area over here, but I think lends itself better to a dog park. So that's basically it. And then, the other thing that I think we were going to talk a little bit about tonight, I might as well just jump into it. That's okay, Lou, the BMX pump track. Councilmember Davies had brought this up at a meeting and is looking into this. We've got a long way to go to figure out how it might work exactly, but basically the idea is to put, I don't know if anyone knows what a BMX pump track is, but it's like a dirt track where take a BMX bike on. There's just little obstacles that are built into the grade, jumps, turns, quick turns. It's very tight angles, and it's just something where you work on your skills to maneuver the bike around. You're not. It's not a huge area actually. He talked to me today that there's ones that he's researched. They're only 40 feet wide by 60 feet long, so it's not a
Okay.
area. And initially he was kind of thinking this area might be a good spot for it, and then I explained to him we were looking at the dog park here, so we met and talked about where else it could go, and we think it might fit in one of these two locations, probably this one closer to the Lettuce Highway fence. It's near the skate park, it's near a parking lot if you're going to drive and park and use it, and it's just far enough away from this baseball field, which Lou, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand this is typically just used for modified baseball practice. It's not a heavily field.
That's the only thing it's used for.
So it's, while, there is some risk of an errant long fly ball heading over that direction, or a pot fly, if you put it here, I think it's far enough away that and this is, again, seldom used. It's not a huge risk. And overall, it seems like a good spot for it. That's something we need to research more. I know Mark is looking into that, and he'd like to form or see if we can form a similar volunteer-led community group as we're talking about for the dog park, to kind of maintain and take care of this, because there is some ongoing maintenance that's involved with having a dirt bike track, basically. Not dirt bike, but made of dirt for BMX bikes. So I guess with that, I'll pass it off to Lou, or if anyone has any questions about the location of the dog park or the BMX track.
Greg, would you talk a little bit about, going back to the dog park, would you talk a little bit about, can you talk about what the city has decided in height of fence, and anything you can tell us about the construction of the dog park?
Yeah, so I think a minimum 4-foot fence. Talking to Moniana Fence, that's what they put in over in Norwich, where they just installed a dog park a couple of years ago. I think originally the recommendation was for a 5-foot fence, which, obviously the higher the fence, the more the cost. But it seems that a 4-foot may be sufficient. If that's the case, we would probably research that a little more before we make a final decision, and go with whatever is most cost efficient.
Can you elaborate at all, Greg, on the cost of the fence? Because I know that's the biggest expense here.
Yeah, I think we had budgeted $60,000 for the whole project, and my estimate, the fence would be within that budget. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how much that was.
Okay,
But,
I couldn't remember either. I just wanted to refresh my memory.
yeah, so I think it's doable. I mean, DPW has already cleared out a good part of this area. There'd be some grading to do, some topsoil and seed to place down and get that to grow. So there's some material costs there, but a lot of the work with us doing it in-house saves quite a bit of money. At the entrance here, this is a simple drawing, but there's, this would be concrete with chain link fence. It's easier to maintain, so you don't have to go and weed whack. Have a high traffic area where the grass would get trampled down.
Mhm.
And again,
Good move.
would be future, potentially paved pathways, but they're not paved now.
Smooth paved pathways for roller sports.
Oh, Beth, you're funny. Are you ready for me now? Thanks,
Yep.
Greg.
Sure.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about the dog park, a little more. Obviously, we have this committee. The really good news that Greg gave me today is, and help correct me, Greg, if I'm saying his name wrong, our Lieutenant Witzenberg has recommended that Tim, is it Kuzo? Am I saying it right? Kuzo, who is our animal control officer, he recommends him to be on this committee. I thought it was a really good idea to include him. He is someone who's probably going to get the bulk of complaints about dogs, and probably gets the bulk of the complaints about dogs in the park. I think he could offer us some really great feedback being a member of this group. He can also let us know what's within his scope of authority to, if it's ticket writing or whatever, what's going to be within his scope of authority to help us with this area, if and when we do open, and what can help. And I think that will help maybe with some of the concerns that Bill Shu had that I'll talk about in a minute. So that's really good news. Thanks for doing that, Greg. I appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, so.
I don't know if any of you had a chance to go through some of this information I sent you about some of the past, about how the dog park came, but roughly the city has been hearing about a dog park from the community, especially the commission, since about 2002. And this is all stuff that I learned after going through all the files and information in my office. All this happened obviously before I was here. Along about prior to 2012, the commission thought the dog park was important enough to appoint a special dog park subcommittee made up of 7 community members to study and report back to the commission on the feasibility of a dog park. They did that. And basically their findings said, yes, the city of Oneonta should have a dog park. That was what they determined, along with a lot of other things. Greg already talked about the LA group that did the parks master plan in 2013. That master plan is also available on our website, on the recreation page of the website that you can get to if you haven't had a chance to look at it. Prior to April of 2019, we were talking about the dog park again, I don't know, in January and February of 2019 with the commission. I was going through information in the office, and I was asked by, I think, Tim Catella to do a little checking on what kinds of things would have to be in any kind of rules and regulations we had with the dog park. Specifically what kind of signage we might have to have. And so I met with a local, very reputable dog trainer who offered her expertise to the city. Some of the things she came up with, I hadn't even thought of. The big dog, small dog. I mean, we had thought of that. It was in the original planning, but I wasn't sure how we go about determining who's a big dog, who's a small dog, if you're under 2 feet, if you're up, 3 feet, whatever. She is the one that came up with the silhouette ideas. I think it's brilliant. Maybe I should have thought of it before then, but anyway, she came up with that. She also determined a lot of things that I'd never even thought about that leads us to, I think, one of the biggest questions that I'm going to propose to the committee the first time we meet. And that's, what do you think a dog park even is? It seemed, Brett, you may remember this when we talked about this in April 2019. One of the things I said is she recommended no toys in the dog park. In other words, if I take my dog to the park, I can't bring my own tennis ball and throw the tennis ball around. She almost went ballistic at that. She said, you're going to have dog fights galore at your dog park if you do that. And it's something, I know a lot about dogs. It never occurred to me to even think about that. And I think a lot of people have that perception of this is what a dog park should be. I'll go to the dog park with my ball or my Frisbee and I'll throw it for my dog. I think those are all things that we have to think about and talk about, because, you know, if it's just me and my dog in the dog park, sure, Frisbee's great. But if it's me and 10 other dogs with my dog with a Frisbee, there might be a problem. So anyway, I won't go into any more of that. So, but the thing that became clear to me after our commission meeting in 2019, April of 2019, is we have to determine that what we want in our dog park. And the city will come up with those kinds of rules and regulations and signage, depending on obviously what they think is best for the city and getting some valuable feedback from this group. So I think that that's good. We probably should talk about, I had a conversation with Bill Shue about 35 minutes last Friday. He's very anti the city having a dog park. He thinks it's besides being costly, he thinks it's detrimental to the park. I think he doesn't know how we're going to enforce the rules for it. He sees a lot of dogs off the leash in the park, which there are dogs off the leash in the park. And he wants us to be sure that if we do have a dog park, that we have a way of determining that all the dogs are vaccinated, all the dogs are on the leash when they enter the park, when they leave the park, those kinds of things. So he has some real concerns. I think a lot of his concerns were legitimate. I asked him to serve on the committee because I think it's always good to hear the other side. I think most of the people that are involved in the new dog park group are very pro a dog park. I think he would have been valuable to have on the committee just because he sees all the concerns with it. He declined being involved for a lot of reasons, but he declined. Anyway, I will tell you that a lot of the things that he brought up, the old dog park group or the original dog park group from 2012 dealt with a lot of these situations. The new dog park group will also deal with a lot of these situations, will also take care of a lot of these situations, I think, with the rules that we established. One of the things, the summary of this group from 2012, and I think it's so true, is in their summary, their first sentence is, successful dog parks have three things in common: cooperative city officials, involved citizens, and responsible dog owners. The city of Oneonta has all three and more. And I believe that's true. I believe we have a great group of community members. I think the city is very dedicated. City leadership is very dedicated to, if we provide a dog park, we're going to make sure it's a safe dog park for, of course, humans as well as dogs. So I think we have all the components to making sure that we have responsible owners that use that dog park. So long story short, anybody have any question on anything? I tried to summarize that pretty quick, and I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, we haven't established when we're gonna have that committee meet, the dog park.
I'm trying to work with Carrie, but I will tell you this, Beth, Mondays and Wednesdays for the whole month of February are not available.
Not available. What about?
We're probably going to have to go on there's 2 Tuesdays and 1 Thursday that's available.
Okay, well, tell me which ones.
The good news, Beth, is that even if you have to come in late,
okay,
we could still do it. And if Trevor is approved tomorrow night, we do have another person from the commission that will be on that dog park committee because he's a member of that committee.
Okay.
So, and hopefully March may be different, but I don't know. Mondays and Wednesdays are difficult.
Tough, yeah. I get it. Yeah. So maybe I'll have to rearrange my work schedule for the year. Sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
No, but it's how business works. All right.
Any questions on anything, gang? I felt like I kind of jumped around there on you, and I'm sorry, but.
Well,
Not.
go ahead, Katie.
Oh, I don't have to go first.
Hey, Katie.
Okay, so I also received an email from Bill Shue, who, full disclosure, is my father-in-law.
Mhm.
And it's about the dog park. I think Lou did a great job of addressing a lot of the concerns that he raised in the email, and I agree that those are things that, you know, maybe not this commission, but the smaller subgroup that's focused on the dog park can take into consideration. One thing that he addressed that I'm very interested in as well, and is something that I've been kicking around since before I was on council, is kind of an end user fee. Maybe not specifically for the use of the dog park, but maybe sort of a different way of addressing like the dog registration. Like all the dogs in the city right now are registered with the city. And maybe there's a way to kind of step that up. There's sort of you've taken obedience class, and just to sort of raise the accountability level. And so anyway, so we don't have to get into the weeds with that, but that would be something that I would support the subcommittee taking a look into and providing some recommendations for potentially an end user fee. And so one of the things he had said specifically was, when you get your dog license at the city, you have to provide an up-to-date vaccination record, and then you get a little sticker for the collar or something like that. So just some options like that that might help kind of assuage some of those fears, but also might benefit the city in some way and help the dog park be sort of self-sustaining.
I think that's a good point. I will tell you that a lot of the dog parks I've been looking at do not charge a fee. Some do,
Sure.
but do not charge a fee. There is something to be said about visitors that come to your park in the summertime. And if your city residents who are already paying city tax and registering their dogs, now they have to pay a user fee to use that park. What are you going to do with tourists and people that come to Oneonta who you may discourage from use? You may say you can't use the park because. So I think it's worth looking at,
There's a
definitely.
lot to discuss
But I
there
think
for
it's going
sure.
to create some problems for us. But I think it's worth looking at. I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
I would love to see a dog park that wasn't charged anything for use. I'd like to see us look at other ways to fundraise and stuff for more things the park needs. But
I have a question, and it's something I'm sort of reluctant to bring up. Before we lived here, we lived in Norfolk, Virginia, which is, a nice place to live. And we had a dog park right, in the neighborhood, and people loved it. It was really a focal point and really a gem for the place. But there were sometimes issues with dogs being aggressive, or owners not really taking enough responsibility for their dog's behavior. So I love that we have this sort of advisory group in place, but the question on my mind is, well, what do we do to ensure that that this advisory group sort of covers all the bases that we wanted to cover? Is there a point where we would, as a city or as a Parks and Recreation Commission, sort of say, okay, hold on, this is not going the way we thought it would. We need to pump the brakes a little bit on this. Is there a point that we would do that? And how would we identify what that red line is?
I think, and I'm going to try to answer that for you, Brett. Carrie and Greg and I just talked today. Please remember that the city of Oneonta will make the rules for this park. And I'm not going to say that 2 years from now, we might say, hey, we need to change this because it's been a real problem. That could happen.
Yeah.
The city will take the advice of this group, but this group does not establish the rules and regulations for the dog park. I think the best thing we have going for us is to have Tim involved, because Tim could certainly address what he's capable of doing and what the city police might be capable of doing. and go with what their recommendations might be. I think there's always the potential for an aggressive dog. I think two things that we have going for us right now that this group in 2012 may not have had as established is, number one, everybody and their brother has a cell phone.
Mhm.
And on that cell phone is a camera. And it's very easy to take a picture of who gets into what car. If that dog was aggressive, this dog, and I think that Tim will be able to tell us how some of that can happen, how that reporting can happen, so that maybe there is a way to keep people more accountable. Because I know that we don't want confrontations at the dog park.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I have heard in the past of dog park users that, like, if they see a particular dog at that park, they'll like not use it at that time. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, I
Mhm.
mean, people sort of end up policing themselves a little bit more too. Like,
And
you know,
I think that's the beauty of having a community group involved.
Mhm.
Very much like some of the other things we've done, community gardens, which is something Carrie and Greg and I talked about today. They did a good job advising Oneonta on how to make that facility better, and the facility's amazing right now. So, I mean, we have some work to do. There's no question. There can be no aggressive dogs at the dog park. That's a no-no. And again, I think Tim and certainly the city police would be willing to help us with this. I'm sure of it.
dogs. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Any,
I see-
Um,
I think
Katie has a hand up.
Katie's has her
Katie.
hand.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is kind of a silly question. One is an infrastructure question. So I know, Greg, that when you had showed us your screen, you had mentioned those like shade, porticos or whatever. So full disclosure, I've only ever been to one dog park before. It was in Maine. It was great. They had like Adirondack chairs. So I just parked it and like threw my ball for my dog, and it was great. But one thing that they did have was a water spigot. And so I'm just wondering if there's any access, if that's been considered into the cost. If not, if that's something that is possible and what that additional cost might be.
It's a great question. That's not a silly question.
Oh, that
That's a
wasn't
great-
the silly question.
Okay, all right, sorry.
That was the infrastructure question.
That was a great question.
Well, thank you.
Want me to jump in on that one then, Katie?
Yes, please.
So there's no water figured into the cost right now. However, we're proposing to put the dog park in the Niwa side as opposed to Catella side. It's very relatively close to water at the large pavilion, obviously with the bathrooms there. There's water service there, so it wouldn't be certainly too insurmountable to get a water line over there with using DPW forces. So it's something we could look into. It doesn't necessarily have to happen right away. Obviously, ideally, we'd be able to, if we could fit it in the budget, we can look at that. If there's time, which is one thing for DPW, and then the material cost to extend it over there. Because that was something that was obviously in the report that, you want to try to have water there if you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's doable. Whether or not we can accomplish it in the initial construction, to be determined. I would think if you added it later, it could be something that's along the edge of the fence where you're not going to be digging right through the whole dog park again. Maybe you just bring up the spigot just inside the fence somewhere. So.
And this may be something that we can look into grants for in the future. It might be something down the road that we could fundraise for or possibly get some kind of grant help with. I don't know that, but again, that's what the community gardens, that's what we did with there and made some big improvements. So anyway.
Okay. The silly question is, what if I have a big dog and a small dog?
good question.
You have to bring someone with you.
Uh,
You have to bring your husband and he has to take the
Just
small
food
dog
for
or the
thought.
big dog.
my neighbors have a big dog and a couple small dogs. And so
Yeah,
there are people out there. So
yeah,
just
you
something to
can't,
think about.
you can't take a small dog in a big dog park. It's just
Right.
not a good
And
thing.
it
Yeah.
makes total
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
it just hit me like, wait, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to bring both my dogs at the same time, and that would be,
It's some of the same
Challenging.
thing that we're looking at, Katie. If you have a dog and a child the age of your child,
Mhm.
that's something we have to look at too.
Oh, yeah.
Because the feeling is children under 12 should be accompanied by an adult, but one adult really can't keep all of their focus on their dog and a child under 12. So that's something we have to look at too. Does an adult with a child under 12 and a dog have to come two adults? One for the dog, one for the child.
Hmm.
Those are all things we have to look at,
right.
right?
And can you mandate that? Like, how do you?
I think we can, but
just
we have to decide how we're going to, and that again, maybe we have to look how enforceable that is. I think we can have signage,
At your
I
own
don't
risk.
know. How can we enforce everybody having their dog vaccinated?
Right.
That's a hard one to enforce, but you can enforce it. You can say, any city official, let's say Tim visits a dog park. He can walk up to Katie and say, Katie, let me see your vaccination record. There's a phone now. It can be pictured on your phone, and we can require that you have vaccination records on your phone available for any city official that asks for them. A city police officer, the city animal control officer. I think there's no reason why I can't take a picture of all of Ziva's vaccination records if I'm going to take her there.
Okay.
Lots of people don't want their dogs wearing the jingle jangle collars because it can affect dogs' hearing. So, okay, it's right here.
Interesting. It's a lot to consider.
It is a
Yes,
lot. It's
is.
not as easy as it might sound. Like I said, I think it's easier really to build it than to monitor it.
Comprehensive monitoring plan. Okay. All right. Anything else on old business? Okay. Any new business? No, nothing.
Oh,
Katie,
it's me again.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, one of the additional things, and Lou, I don't know if this was brought up in your conversation with Bill Shu, but one of the things in the email that he had written about to me was, what did he call it? A splash pad or like a water park
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And so I just wondered if anyone had ever talked about that, if this commission had ever considered it.
Not only have we considered it, we've received two proposals from Parkitects on building it. It is part of our master plan
Oh, cool.
to have a splash pad. It was part of the master plan when the original pool was taken out of Neowa Park. There was a pool in Neowa.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
you know that. You're
Yep.
a local person. When that was taken out, there was supposed to be a splash pad, or that was the plan, to put one in Neowa Park.
Yep.
They are incredibly expensive. And this is what the girl from Parkitects told us. She came in, I believe it was 2018 or 2019. I don't know, Brett, your memory might be better than mine, and did a presentation, most recent presentation for the commission, and did a fabulous job. And she said, unfortunately, with a splash pad, most of the cost is what you don't see, the plumbing below ground.
Mhm.
It's about $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Just for the
and I
plumbing?
know Bill did say something about having an ice rink in the winter, and it
Yes.
turns to a splash pad. And, I think, I told him if he had a couple million, he wanted to leave the city, that we would take it and consider that. He laughed. I got a laugh out of him. So,
Okay. Well, thank you for addressing that in the,
yeah.
in the group.
I'd be happy to, if you want me to, next month or whatever, I'd be happy to share that Parkatech thing with you if you
Oh,
want.
yeah.
Okay,
I love info.
okay,
Send me wherever you want.
okay, I'll
Thanks,
remember
Lou.
that. Watch
Okay.
out, you're gonna get paperwork now. Okay,
Well, and just to sort of build on that, Greg, you had mentioned maybe sharing the updated master plan for Niwa. Would you be willing to share that with all of us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Just because I remember that being part of that list of priorities.
Yep. it was.
Okay. All right.
Maybe would you think about doing that next month, Greg? Maybe we will have a full commission then.
Yeah, I mean, I can email it out after this meeting if you'd like. And then, Trevor, I think it's Trevor, the new
I think Trevor will be.
name, right? Trevor Huntsman, the new member, we can get it to him as well, and we can come back and talk about that. What I'll send is what I was showing before is a 2013 update, and then with some modifications that I've done that show like the pickleball courts and some other things that have changed since then. And I'll also send the list of priorities from 2019 and how
That's
they've
great.
since then. Every year when we do our capital planning process, we kind of update that. So I'll send you the most current version and we can talk about that.
Thanks.
All right. Any other new business, anyone? Okay. That sounds like we got a lot on our plate to work out with the dog park. That's coming up soon. Anyone move to adjourn? Is that what we do
I'll move
next?
to adjourn the meeting, Beth.
Okay.
Seven-
Adjournment is 7:53 p.m. Parks and Recs, thanks. All right. Is that
Bye,
it? Did I
Thank you,
do it?
everybody. Thank
How'd it
you.
go? All right.